few weeks ago, about a month ago now. Check it out. It was a powerful conversation. John Few is in the building, checking in from Chester, South Carolina. Scott Wiley is in Chester, West Virginia. Rodney Richardson, Hampton, Virginia. Grace Castaneda is back in Kyle, Texas. Takesha High is in Virginia. Marsha Poe is in San Diego. Tashika Truesdale is in Atlanta, Georgia. Where we at? Dr. Rella Hicks is in Augusta, Georgia. I see Stacy Joy. She says sunny LA, man. I wish it was sunny New Jersey, but we're gonna be cloudy today and we get some rain tonight and then tomorrow. That's all right. We'll sunny days later on. Good to see you, Stacy Joy. We got Nicole Williams in the building, checking in from West Palm Beach, Florida. Good to see you. We got Edgar Ray, Macon, Georgia. We got my man, Principal Otis Kitchen II, down in Florida. Kimberly O'Donohue is in the building. Rashard Davis checking in from Las Vegas, Nevada. Armanda Campbell, Florence. Let's say IT. You made me question myself. What state is IT? Right? So I guess I don't know what that should say. Only Florence I know is South Carolina. Arlette Mello Johnson is out there in Connecticut, the 2023 Assistant Principal of the Year, starting her principalship this year. And check out our conversation that we had a few weeks ago. Great one. There it is. There he is, Josh Tovar. Buenos dias to you. That's my man. That's matter of fact, let me just say it right now. We got Super Saturday every Saturday. That's Sean Hurt, 10 o'clock. These are all Facebook Live, followed by Create and Educate, Dr. Tammy Taylor, Dr. Sheikah Houston, and then myself at 10:55, and then go on over to Sunday, and that rounds out what we call the Fantastic Four, 4 platforms of professional learning for leaders, and that's with Josh Tovar and Dr. Moreno. Check us all out. Saturday, though, we call it Super Saturday because we on Saturday, and it's super, right? Let's go. We got Tatum Johnson in the building. Melissa Jones-Chunu out there in Tulsa. Good morning to you. Golfar, WTA Golfar, sent you a DM, man, last week. Check it out. Go to Twitter and check that DM and respond to me, man. Golfar said, man, you calling me out in public, man. Yeah, man, I've been waiting for you to respond. There's the queen of the castle, man. The castle, man. We in the castle, baby. My wife, Kimberly Broughton Kafele. We getting ready to hit Broadway for the second week in a row, y'all. We live in our best life. The next Saturday, Philadelphia. All roads lead to Philly. Frankie, Beverly, and Mays. The farewell tour. We gonna be rocking all white, but we'll talk about that later on. I got my white pants, my white shirt, my white sneakers. Now I just got to get my white hat, man, and then we gonna be good, man. We gonna be good. That's next Saturday. Philly. All roads lead to Philly, July 6th. Here we go. We got Nolene Martin in the building in Texas. We got September Devon Vance Daniels in the building. Where we at? Dr. Sheikah Houston is in the building, man. She been running around here like a rock star, man, doing all these presentations all over the place, man. Man, Sheikah Houston taking care of business these days. Asia Burnett is from Jersey. I should end it right there. We got the Jersey in the building. Let me get a couple more in here. We got Dr. Demetrius Scott. Hunter Flesh is in the building out in Iowa. There's Sean Hurt up there in Detroit. Let me tell y'all something. If you missed Sean Hurt this morning, go back. Go to his page, Sean Hurt, and he's talking about when you hire the wrong person or promote the wrong person, the consequences that accompany that decision. Once again, when you hire the wrong person or you promote the wrong person, the consequences that accompany those decisions. You might want to go back, not just today, because he's been doing this for multiple weeks. I think this was week 3, right? So check that out. Great conversation. And then when I do my monologue in a minute, I had to borrow something from Dr. Sheikah Houston and Dr. Tammy Taylor because they said something that was consistent with my monologue. So I said, well, let me just add what they said to mine. So we're gonna get to it. Let me wrap this up, y'all. We got Monifa Neely in the building. I'm gonna end it with our biggest promoter that we have on this platform, Donna Sherrigant. I see you, Donna. I appreciate everything you do for this platform, for our folks, for our fam that tune in every week. as far as just putting the word out there that we on. So I'm gonna end it with Donna Gant. And I'll see you in Houston at the Black Educators Rock Conference, by the way. But with that said, everybody, I'm going to end it right there. And I'm going to say formally to everybody now, good morning. Greetings. Welcome to week 218 of the AP and New Principles Academy. Man, y'all know, after it's been like what, a month or two now, and I keep telling y'all I can't let you know how on fire that I am, because I just can't bring myself to calling Apple, man. I got better things to do with my time to be sitting on that customer service waiting all day. So at some point I will, because it's muting me when I yell, right? So but I'm gonna get to them, but I'm gonna still let you know, y'all. My hope is that despite whatever's happening in your world right now, that as it relates to, like, here's your world, but your leadership is right here, right? See, it's right here. Your leadership's not your whole world. If it is, you might want to rethink that. If my work was my world, I would need to rethink that, right? Because I got aspects of my life that ain't got nothing to do with my work. Yeah, I said ain't got, right? That ain't got nothing to do with my work, right? But if I took my work and said, this is my world, I need to rethink that, because that's not good for the mental health, right? So I'm saying your world, but then there's this little fraction within your world called leadership. And I'm asking you, I'm hoping, I should say, that despite whatever may be happening in the world, your world, that this little fraction called leadership, you have still, and I can't yell it, but you have still sustained your fire, because I certainly have. I sit here on this 29th day of June on fire, but I can't yell it because it'll just mute me. It won't mute the broadcast, it'll just mute the fire. So I'm not even gonna waste my time, right? So one day when I'm real bored, I'll call Apple and say, that new operating system doesn't allow me to elevate my volume. I need you to fix it so that I can let my folks know that I'm blazing, right? Enough said. Listen, y'all, let me go through this rundown, and then we're gonna jump to my guest, because I got a superstar on here today. Shout out to the Christina School District in Delaware, their equity committee in particular. Oh man, I had a great time with them, man. I only did 3 this week. We didn't do 5 days this week. We did 3. Shout out to them. Then shout out to Spring ISD Leadership Summit, man. Great time just talking to all the leaders in Spring ISD, which is in Houston. Oh man, just had a great time. I met a lot of great people while I was there. Great principals, assistant principals, central office, man. Just had a great time. That was my second time there, but it's been a while. Shout out to Rochester City Schools in Rochester, New York. I keynoted the teacher summit there, man, and did 2 85-minute breakout sessions, y'all. Whew. Man, you keynote and then you do 2 85-minute back-to-back, 10 minutes in between. Woo! That's it. That's not easy to do, but I did it. You know, we had a great time. Shout out to them, and I'll be back in August to keynote their leadership summit along with Dr. Bettina Love. You know, she'll be one day, I'll be the other. So we're looking forward to that. We were down there this week with Dr. Chris Emden. So just out there with good people, man. Welcome to the first timers. Let me clear my throat, man. Let me clear my throat. Welcome to the first timers. See the previous 217 weeks that you missed, because if it's your first time, that means you missed 217 sessions, right? You missed a lot of content. So take that 217 and multiply it by about 2 hours, man, and you missed about 400, probably more than 434 hours of content, man. It's a lot there. So you want to take advantage of that. Subscribe to the channel. Let me say it again. Subscribe to the channel. We have 21,400 subscribers to date. I'm looking forward to the 25,000. So subscribe to the channel. If you haven't subscribed, please do. And let me tell you why in particular. Because I'm only going to be on Facebook and Twitter for 5 more Saturdays. That's it. I'm going exclusively YouTube, right? I don't like Facebook anymore as far as this because I'm a numbers guy. I'm a data guy. That's what I am. I was that guy as a teacher. I was that guy as a principal. And those Facebook numbers that I get, they're flawed because they're giving us those of us who are creators, they're giving us view counts. If somebody is scrolling their page and the video pops up and they don't even watch it, then the video still gets a full view. I don't want that. I want true data. And the only way I'm gonna get true data is by going to YouTube, right? So starting August the 3rd, we exclusively YouTube, but I will share it onto my Facebook and Twitter pages. So you can watch it you can just go to Facebook, go to Twitter and click the link because it's not going to just open up like it does on Facebook now. You got to click the link and you'll be able to watch YouTube, or you just go to the YouTube channel, AP and New Principles Academy. But I'm a numbers guy. I'm a data guy. I'm a numbers cruncher. That's who I always was as an administrator. And that's who I am as a speaker, as an author, as a consultant, as a YouTuber, as a live streamer, I should say. I'm a numbers guy, and I got to have accurate numbers. I can't look at my numbers and it's giving me, and it's saying 10,000. But then I read how is that so? And they tell me, well, you get an automatic view when someone's scrolling and your video pops up. I don't want those kind of numbers. I need true numbers, right? I don't need numbers that inflate my ego. I need the true numbers of the people that watch the platform. So we go on straight YouTube beginning August 3rd. So start watching us on YouTube now so you can get used to it. Enough said there, because I'm gonna be saying it for the rest of all of July. School Leadership Institute is around the corner now, man. School Leadership Institute with Principal Kafele, July 9 and 10 in Houston, Texas. Go to principalkafele.com, scroll down to the announcements, click the link, register. I got to purchase the books too, because I give away a book every year, a book that I wrote. We're gonna use the Principal 50 this year. So if you haven't registered, the cutoff to receive a book is gonna be this Monday, because I got to order the books Monday. So if you haven't registered, register now so that you can get that book along with your registration and, of course, the content of the 2-day session. And then come back to Houston the week after to the Rock Conference, Black Educators Rock, July 18th through the 21st. Man, there's be so many people that I can't name them all right now, but I think maybe next week I'll give you the rundown of who's going to be there. And we want you to be there with us in Houston, July 18 to 21. Of course, I do the leadership all-day session. We call it the Aspiring Leaders Session, but I want people who are not, who are also veterans and new and APs. I want everybody in there. So just come on through. That's on the last day, the 21st. That's on a Sunday. That's just all day. We go 10 to 3. And then I got to catch a flight, right? So my books, my leadership books, man, I'll go through this quick. Go to Amazon or ASCD and pick up the Assistant Principal 50. Pick up the Assistant Principal Identity. That's the newest one. Pick up the Principal 50. Pick up the Aspiring Principal 50. And pick up Is My School a Better School Because I Lead It. And I finished what is my value to the teachers that I supervise instructionally. So my editor and I, we going through the edits now. We just about finished. We'll be finished this week. And then the book will be released in December. And it'll be up for pre-order in October. What is my value to the teachers that I supervise instructionally? Let me just say this to y'all. There should be, I said it last week, I'm going to say it again. There should be no grad school program for educational administration anywhere in America that doesn't have this book as required reading. When you get your hands on it, I think you'll agree. You'll say, wow. My editor said, oh my God, this is the best book you ever wrote. This is like where you coming up with this stuff? I said, I don't know. Because every time I finish a book, I've written 15 now. Every time I finish a book, I think I'm done. I think I've depleted my brain of everything I got. And then all of a sudden, I got a whole nother 50,000 words for a new book. So, God is good, as they say, all the time. Right. So be sure to like and follow the AP and New Principles Academy Facebook page as well. I ain't been doing nothing with it lately, but in September, I'll be back on it. Right now, with this summer schedule that I'm on, y'all know. It's a little rough right now. Hey, y'all, my monologue real quick, and then I want to bring up my guests. My monologue initially was, I want you to project. When they think of you, who will they think of? That was the title. And let me just go through it real quick, but we'll do the quick version. When your students are long gone, they graduated. Some of you may have seen the post I wrote because it had a lot of traffic. One of the fam here went to his doctor's office in Missouri this week, and they got to talking about education. Him and the doctor, young doctor. So as they started talking education, the doctor said the biggest influence or effect on his life was his principal. So he told the patient, who's part of our fam, he said he was from New Jersey. So the fam member, he only knows one principal in New Jersey, and that's me. So he said, "Who's your principal?" And the guy said, "Kafele." So my former student is a doctor in Missouri. So then the young man, he says, "Man, your influence is all over the place, you know." So I'm saying that to say this: it warmed my soul to hear that, right? And the young man said the doctor said to tell me hello, but it warmed my soul to hear that. But I'm asking you the question: when your students are long gone from you, and I'm not talking about who you were as a teacher right now, I'm talking about who you are or who you will become as a principal or an AP. 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 years from now, what will be their recollection of you? That's the question. Will it be a recollection? Oh man, he used to suspend me all the time. Will it be a recollection? Oh, I was scared of him or her. Will it be a recollection? I really didn't know him. I really didn't know her. I really didn't see her. I really didn't see him. I saw my teacher. I don't really know much about who the principal was. What will be their recollection of you? I know that the things you do within your leadership are not necessarily direct to the student, so the student wouldn't see all that you do. Like when you buy X, Y, and Z for the school, they're not thinking principal. They just see that they have the resource. But I'm saying that direct relationship, man. What will be their recollection of you? That's the question that's being asked. But then I listened to Tammy and Sheikah this morning, and they were having a conversation which was consistent. And I want to just throw it at you. Go back and listen to them, but let me throw it at you in real time. Forget about projecting now. In real time, when people think about your school, what are they thinking? Right? Just let me get my mirror for this. Josh, it's not clean, man. Listen, you got spots in it, right? When they think about your school right now, real time, what it like I'm talking about people outside of the school, certainly the people in the school, but the community people, the parents, what are their thoughts of your school? Is the thinking that this is a great institution? This is a place that we're proud of. This is a place that we rally around. What's the thinking? Or is the thinking, oh my God, this is a drag to our community. This is a liability, right? There's a lot of flaws here. There's a lot of deficiencies here. There's a lot of problems here, right? And then everything in between. What are they thinking? I would dare challenge you all. I'm glad Dr. Houston, Dr. Taylor brought this up this morning. I would challenge you all. Take ownership of that question. Both questions. Take ownership. What are people thinking of my school in real time? What are people thinking of me, the leader, the assistant, in real time? Because if their perceptions of you do not align with the way you've crafted your identity. In other words, you have a particular brand identity that relative to how you see yourself. But then your school has a brand image relative to how they see it. If they don't align, there's a disconnect. And therefore, the way your school will be perceived will be the way that be seen will be the way that it is perceived by the people outside. Not by what you say. What you say will have no relevance whatsoever. Brand identity and brand image have to align. That's critical. So therefore, what they're perceiving you to be matters. You can't take the position, I don't care what they say. I know what I am. I know who we are. No, you can't take that position. You got to take the position, what they say matters to me. What they say matters to my growth and development. I have to take their thoughts into consideration. Enough said. Enough said. Let's go. I got a guest here today, man. We got a lot to talk about. Do me a favor, Baruti. Throw me that book that's on the couch right there. Yeah, thank you. On the arm. Let me get my guest up here, man. We got a big time guest. We got Dr. Sheldon Eakins in the building. In fact, we could say Sheldon L. Eakins is in the building. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Baruti. Hey, listen, I'm so honored to be here. Thank you so much for it.
I'm glad you're here, man. And like I told you off mic, you should have been here a long time ago. But you know, we got the bottom line is we got you here, right? Hey, folks, for those of you that don't know Dr. Eakins, and Doc, I didn't tell you offline. Any of my guests that come on, you may have heard me say this if you tuned in sometime. Any of my guests with a doctorate, I got to call you doctor online. Even though I know you as Sheldon, I got to call you doctor. And let me give you the thinking behind that. In any space, there's always going to be somebody that started working on a doctorate, but life got in the way and they kind of put it to the side and they never went back to it, or they were contemplating starting the process, but they never started the process. So I use this platform to say to you throughout the next, whatever long we're going to be on it, say, Dr. Eakins, Dr. Eakins, Dr. Eakins, to get them thinking, man, I'm supposed to be Dr. So-and-so too. Let me get back to this thing. So that's my rationale for doing that. Let me read the bio. Dr. Eakins sent me the shortest bio y'all ever going to hear. So we're going to go right to it. He got a long bio, but he sent me the short version. Dr. Sheldon L. Eakins, PhD, is the principal of Pathways in Education, Arizona, an alternative high school. He is also the founder of the Leading Equity Center. Dr. Eakins is the host of the Art of Advocacy live stream and Leading Equity podcast. Furthermore, Dr. Eakins is the author of Leading Equity, Becoming an Advocate for All Students. With over 15 years in education, he has served as a teacher, principal, adjunct professor, and director of special education. And that's all he sent me. That's all y'all need, right? The rest of it, you're going to hear who he is as we have this conversation. You know, Doc, let's jump into it. You know, I met you, I don't recall exactly what year, but it was quite a few years ago. You found me some kind of way and invited me onto your podcast. And we've known each other ever since. We met each other at that time. And I became immediately impressed with your work because I didn't confine that interview to just me seeing you in the interview, and I checked you out and I saw the kind of work you were doing, and I continue to see the work you're doing. I keep up with your work. So I'm saying that to say there's a lot that you do within education, but if we could take your life and confine it to education for a second, who is Dr. Sheldon L. Eakins as an educator?
As an educator, so one of the things, and I know we hear this a lot, but I'm a stickler for relationship building. And any past students, former staff, any of those kind of things will tell you that one of the things that I've always tried to do is try to develop a relationship, an individual relationship with whoever I'm interacting with. So as an educator, that's the first piece. It's very important for me to develop that relationship because with that comes respect. With that comes appreciation. With that comes some sort of understanding that I'm there for you. Okay. It's not for a paycheck. It's just something that, you know, I have a wealth of knowledge. I have experience. There's things that I'm passionate about, and I want to share with you just as much as I want to learn from you. So in a nutshell, I'm a relationship builder, relationship strategist, if you will. I think one of the things that's been really helpful for me as a podcaster myself is those one-on-one conversations.
Yeah.
You know, outside of the lights and cameras and things like that, you know, we were talking before we started live streaming. Like, I'm very introverted. You know, I tend to keep to myself. I keep a small circle and things like that. So like I put it on often when I'm on stage or when I'm out doing workshops. Like you just mentioned, you did 2 back-to-back workshops and a keynote I've
Yeah,
been there, and that's
yeah,
that is rough. That is rough. But you know what? You still got to maintain the energy. You still got to do what you got to do in order to motivate individuals who are going to be in front of kids all the time. So anything that I know, anything that I've learned over the years, I want to express that. I want to share that as an educator. Once an educator, you're always an educator. So even if you're not in a classroom, you're still an educator, whatever level that might be.
yeah, yeah. You know, I want to go back to what you said about the two back to backs, and because you've been there. You know, it's funny for those of you out there that either speak or aspire to speak at some point outside of what the speaking you do on the job. Doing a full day,
Yeah.
6 hour presentation is a lot easier than doing a keynote for 60 minutes and two 85-minute back to backs. And let me tell you why. Because that group for them 6 hours, they gonna be there. Like they
Mhm.
have to be there. They got no say in it. That's the part of their job. They got to be there. Them two 85-minute sessions, those folks chose to be there. And they may not know who you are, but it was something about the topic that they said, I want to be in there. So now that means you got to be up here for them because they made a conscious decision. That wasn't their boss saying you got to be in that room. They
Yeah.
made a conscious decision. So you did the 85 minutes, you're wiped out. And now here they come. They at the door getting ready to come in. You got to stay up here for that group because they made a decision to hear you. You can't have somebody who made a decision to hear you and then you bring it down because you're tired, right?
Yeah. Well,
It's
the other piece to the 85s, right? 285, you're talking two different things, right?
yeah,
You're not doing, unless you're doing back to back same session, which is
two different
rare,
things. Yeah,
right? So you got to bring the energy and content with two different subjects more than likely versus, like you said, an all day session. You're focused on like your agenda is going to be different. And so, and then you get some breaks. You know, there's going to be opportunities for small group sessions. There's going to be opportunities for the teams to kind of collaborate. You kind of move around, so you're not fully speaking the entire time. But yeah, keynote, you're speaking 45, 60 minutes, and then go into those two. So you're doing three different sessions
yeah,
versus
yeah.
one full day. Is yeah,
Right.
I would take that any day.
Three different preparations.
Yeah.
Here we go. So you know, before I get to why we're here, I always want my audience to kind of know who's on here. You know, you're obviously, Doc, very, very passionate about education. That's your thing. Such as mine and probably everybody that's on this thread this morning. This is what we do. We're passionate about it. But what I want to know, and you have a particular passion. Let me put your book on the screen. Leading Equity, Becoming an Advocate for All Students. You can get this at Amazon right now, folks, right? Leading Equity, a powerful book. I'm going to be making some reference to it throughout. But you have a particular interest in equity or leading equity. My question to you is your passion for education, your passion for equity. Where's that passion coming from?
So I recently moved to Phoenix, Arizona. So shout out to my folks that are out and it's hot, man. It's hot.
Yeah,
I
112
almost
degrees
cursed.
last week.
I almost cursed. But it's really hot. It's really hot here. We'll just put it there. Uh, someone said, "What did y'all do to the devil to make him that upset?"
Yeah,
Is what someone said the other day. But before that, I was living in Idaho. Now, as a black man living in Idaho, I can definitely tell you some stories
yeah,
about my experience as an educator.
yeah,
And a shout out to Idaho. I don't have any animosity towards that state. It's a great state. If you're into the outdoors, if you're into potatoes, that's a place to go. You know, we got Yellowstone. We got Yellowstone is there. It's a really good place. I'm just not. I'm not going to go hunting. I'm not fishing. I'm not hiking. I'm not snowboarding. You know, I prefer more of a larger city in which those venues are like concerts, basketball games, professional things like that. That's more my scene. Now, I got into this work, and so I would argue, you know, as a black man navigating the United States, you know, you're dealing with equity in a sense, in some scale, all your life, right? But
yeah,
very specific when I started having students come up to me and tell me, Dr. Akins, there's individuals that my teachers are saying these things to me. My counselor told me I need to speak English only. My classmates are telling me, when am I going back to Mexico? or when they're building that wall. Like all these conversations were coming up to me, and honestly, I didn't know how to handle it. Not only that, I was dealing with my own stuff, right? My own microaggressions that I was dealing with. So, and I have my own children that were dealing with things too. So it's just a culmination of all of these experiences wrapped into one. And I needed to figure out not only how I can do better as an educator, but also how I can support the community that I'm serving in a way that is giving me the language and the knowledge and skill set to articulate, you know what? I know you didn't mean anything by this. I know you weren't trying anything. You had the best intentions. However, it's offensive, and here's why. Or, you know what? I'm curious. What brought you to that point? What made you make that comment to me? I know you didn't mean anything by it, but can we unpack that for a little bit?
Yeah.
So that's how the work started officially. It was just selfishly, it was for me. I started the podcast, didn't think anybody was going to listen to it. It was just me interviewing people that I had saw doing research on certain topics that I wanted to learn more about. And I said, let's share it with the community. And then next thing you know, the work is, people reaching out, asking me, hey, can you come speak? Hey, I understand that you have experience working with Native American population, working on a reservation. We have a large group of Native students in our district. Can you come talk to our teachers? And so it just started to grow and grow and grow to the point to where we're at right now.
I can certainly identify with that. It's today is an interesting number. We're at number 218. This was supposed to be an 18-week academy.
I remember.
Yeah, we were home. Everybody was home.
Yeah.
And I said, I want to talk to assistant principals because it was called the Virtual AP Leadership Academy. So we went the first Saturday in May to the last Saturday in August, and then I'm out. We're done. I did my work. But when I saw the volume of people who were tuning in and watching the videos during the week, I said, oh, I think I'll keep this going. And here we are. I did 200 additional sessions, and now here we are at number 218. So comparable to what you said, and here, and I know that I'll never stop doing this. This will be here forever because it's needed. And there are folks right now who are in middle school, high school, will go on to undergrad school, who will someday, assuming I live that long, right, will benefit from these live broadcasts on Saturday. So that's that's what it is. People talk about draft picks in the NBA, NFL. They traded the 2030 draft pick. Them kids are like in grade school somewhere, but at some point, time will catch up, right? So it matters. I went way off my script, but let me get back to it. You have this shirt that says ally, and then you have a line through it, and then it says disruptor in larger letters. So I've always known of that shirt. I was looking at a picture of you and I that I was going to post, but we took that picture in the heart of the pandemic, and you were rocking a mask in the picture. So I decided not to use the picture to promote. But then when I was reading through the book, you actually tell the story of where that's coming from. Tell us what message, when you walk around America with a shirt that says ally, and then you have a line through it, and then the word disruptor, what message are you sending to people that look at you in that shirt?
So, and I almost wore it today. It was dirty. That's the only reason why I didn't have it on. That's why I got the polo on today. Yeah. But the concept came to me a few years ago, because as I think ally has often been used as a safe word, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's more of a descriptor often, but not necessarily as a verb. And so when I think about the word ally, I could say, you know what, I'll put a flag on the wall. I'll put something in my hallway, in my classroom. I could say I'm a safe space, but it doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to do anything. So if you are part of a historically marginalized community, or you're not part of what we call the mainstream or traditional population, whatever words we want to utilize, and you come to me and say, I'm having this issue. Here's some of the things that I'm experiencing. And so I say, okay, I'll listen to you. and you can be a vent. I'll feel free to express yourself and communicate, but it doesn't necessarily mean, even if I'm in a position of power where I can make some change, doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to actually do anything about it. So I said, rather than saying I'm an ally, no, I'm a disruptor. Years ago, and I talk about it in the book. Years ago, I was student teaching. I walk into the staff room, and I'm just listening to the teachers talking about students, and they're comparing notes and just saying some of the, again, first time I'm still in college. I'm experiencing this. This is what teaching is going to be like. You go to the staff room. I'm trying to get the full experience, and the stuff that I'm hearing the teachers say about other students, it was just like, what the heck is going on? So I decided, you know what? I'm going to leave this space. I get back and talk to my professor, and I'm telling them what I did. I said, you know what? They were talking about students, and I didn't participate in it, and I just left because I didn't want to be a part of that. And I was proud of it. And she said, and what did you do? And that really got me thinking. Yeah. I was like, oh, I didn't do anything. I left, and I'll never go back in that staff room again. And she said, but that was a moment, that was an opportunity for you to say something. So I could say I'm an ally and say, you know what, I'm not going to make fun of I'm not going to participate in these jokes. I'm not going to participate in these conversations. I'm going to just remove myself. But I had an opportunity to say, you know what, I'm a student teacher right now, and I'm a little disappointed in what I'm hearing. I would actually expect to hear something positive about our kids. Now, I don't know much about the students, and I'm just, this is my second week here. However, I have noticed that a lot of the kids are very engaged in other classes. I see them engaged in other areas. Maybe we should have a conversation about what we're doing in our classrooms to not, like, why the kids aren't motivated in our classrooms. What are some things that we could do? So I feel like ally is a safe word. Disruptor, it insinuates action. It means that, you know what, I'm not okay with injustice. I'm not okay with kids being mistreated. I'm not okay with families being mistreated or students looked at as if they're not capable or less intelligent than other students. I'm not okay with that. And I'm in a position where I can make some changes, or at least provide a voice for advocacy. And I recognize that we do not live in a just society, and I'm willing to speak up on behalf of others. That's where the disruptor piece comes from. It shows that I'm willing to do something versus I'm just a safe place for you to be.
I love it. Disruptor. Let's hold up the mirror to the fam. Hey, fam, are you a disruptor, or are you just an ally? And I might say to somebody out there, and someone out there that really knows my work, you already know where I'm going. Sometimes being a disruptor might isolate you.
Yeah.
Everybody may not love you anymore. When you were an ally, they loved you. But now you decide, I want to be a disruptor, right? Well, everybody may not love you. In fact, life might not be as gravy. But as I say on this platform all the time, the people that you and I love and admire, the only reason we even know they were born is because they were willing to go against the grain, which translates into they were disruptors. So it's a decision we have to make. I'm not on here advocating that you get fired from your job, so don't get me wrong, right? But I am saying being a disruptor forces you to be a strong individual with thick skin, right? Because you're going against the status quo. So I just got the mirror up to ask you, who are you? I know I can comfortably look in my mirror, my big mirror over here, and say I was a disruptor. I can comfortably, with zero hesitation, right? So good stuff. Doc, you were out here in these speaker streets for a minute, and you made a decision that I've wanted to make for a long time, but I'm just so accustomed to looking at the boss in my mirror. And that's really the singular reason that I haven't gone back to either a principalship or a superintendency. I just got to, 13 years, I just got accustomed to this lifestyle in terms of just being the boss. But here's the thing. Being away from it for 13 years, I learned so much about the principalship as a consultant that I don't know that I had fully grasped when I was in it as a principal. I feel like a walking principal encyclopedia now. I
Mm.
was a practitioner. They tell me I was good at what I did, but I just feel like I know so much more now because I was able to come out of it and look at it, if that makes sense to the fam out there. I was able to see, I was in it. Sometimes when you in something, you can't see it because you in it. So when I came out of it and started looking at it and speaking to it as a speaker and as a consultant, I started seeing it through a different lens, and I gained so much knowledge, right? So my question to you, Doc, you've been away from it for a little while, and you've been doing you've been consulting, but in order for you to consult, you were studying. And I have to assume that you started seeing education in a way that you didn't necessarily always see it when you were in it. So my question to you then is, what have you learned since your last time you were administrator, going into now? You started the new position. What is it that you give us example of what you know now that you may not have known when you were in it back then, as a result of the work you were doing as a consultant?
Man, that's you got me thinking about that one because because okay, all right, just so I was a school principal. Let's see, about 7 years ago, maybe 8 years ago, was when I was, when I left, went into consulting, did some district stuff, special ed, things like that. Um, Back then, 8 years ago, I think I was younger. I had not read as much, and I had a lot of learning to do. Now, sure, I had my master's in ed leadership, so of course, theory was there. So I understood a lot of those kind of things. But honestly, before my first time being a principal, I was not as familiar with culturally responsive teaching. I knew about the importance of making sure that the content was relevant and to students, but I didn't have a name
Hmm.
attached to it. So
Hmm.
I think now, as an educator, as a school leader, I think I have more understanding, more foundational understanding of what certain terms mean, in addition to the experiences that I've had in the past, where honestly, I made mistakes in the past, just trying to figure some things out.
We
I've
all.
I could tell you some stories, and then now I'm at a place where it's like, okay, I've written books. I have published certain things. I've had, 300 plus episodes of my podcast in which I've learned so much now that I can actually apply it as my next time around as a school administrator. The thing about it is, I wasn't looking necessarily to go back into schools. It was a conversation that sparked into more conversations that kind of brought me to a place where, what, I think I'm at a place in life where I do want to get impact of a school, because
Mm.
you know how it is. You
Yep.
Sometimes we're in and out, right? We go to a venue, we do our thing, and we connect. However, I like the idea of staying in a community, changing the structure, maybe some of the systems that are in place, looking at a place to where we can develop a community where there's a sense of belonging amongst the staff and the students and the families that are represented there in the community. Those are things that I wanted to establish. And I feel like I have the tools and resources to be able to do that now. I don't know if I would have been able to do those things 8 years ago.
Mm.
I think we develop a lot of confidence, we develop a lot of understanding over time, but we have to know what we're looking for. And at the time, I got my leadership license and it's like I got that thinking, that's next, right? You teacher, AP, principal, like you just go up the chain, not thinking necessarily that there's some other logistics that I wouldn't know about. So I definitely think I'm more mature at this point. I have a lot of more terminology and understanding. And I think now I realize more the power that a school leader has. I say this a lot. The school leader is the chief diversity, equity, and inclusion, belonging just social justice, whatever letters you want to throw in there. That's you, right? Because we have access to the allocation of funds. You know, we can often have pull and clout when it comes to what professional development comes in, who we're hiring in. We can be very intentional with our efforts. Sometimes we believe that, oh, I need to have a designated position that's DEI related in order to get that work done. No, as a school leader, it's our job. We're the chief of that position. And so where we put our focus on, where we put our intentions is very important. Those are some things that I've learned since my first time go around as a school leader.
Yeah, I love it. It's I think about, just in working with leaders and the things I present. I say, man, there's a lot of things I talk about, just from my research, through my interactions with people, what I've read. And I said, man, if I had I known these things back then, some of the things they couldn't even be conceptualized, because as life just proceeds, ideas come about, concepts come about. But I know so much more now than I did then. But I just don't know at my age that I want to go back into being that principal. But you never know. You never know.
You
But
never know.
yeah,
I wasn't looking for it, man. It just, again, I worked with it. I did some workshops and training with a previous organization, and then we've always kept in touch. And like I said, one conversation led to another. But I'm very thankful to be back in that seat again, with the additional knowledge and experience that I have right now. I mean, I've worked with school leaders. I've talked to school leaders. I've trained assistant principals and inspiring folks. And so I've asked questions, and I've been able to share that knowledge. And so now I'm back at the helm. And so I'm able to put that knowledge and information to support our community that I'm serving now.
I love it. I love it. I got to put this comment up because it warms my soul. This is obviously not a real name, so I won't know who it is, but I know it was one of my formers by what I see. Principal Kafele was my principal in Hart Middle B building in East Orange, New Jersey. I will never forget him and the impact he had on me. I appreciate that, Wade Boucher, by the way. But what really got me, Doc, is where that end part where it says Asante Sana, Tutawanana, Hotep. See, that was the way for 14 years of principal leadership, 7 years of teaching. That was the way I closed the day. Right? I'm saying to that entire school community over that PA system before that dismissal bell rang, Asante Sana, which means thank you very much. Tutawanana, which means until tomorrow. Hotep, which means peace. And those were my final words. They heard nothing else that came after that. Once I said that, I put the mic down, right? So a lot of young people who are now in their 30s, their 40s, and even early 50s, they'll still say that to me from all them years that I was with them, because it stayed with them, because they're hearing it 180 days. That was the closeout. Asante Sana, Tutawanana, Hotep, right? And it was something I've made up. It's not like, because those are different languages, right? I mean, they're real words, but they're different languages, and I just strung them together to make it make sense, So yeah, like a good friend of mine in Newark says, Bashir Akinyele, it's not a better word that we could say to young people than peace, right? And we just use an African word, ancient Egyptian Kemet, Hotep. Good stuff. I appreciate you. You made my day. You sent me some talking points, and let me just remind the fam out there, the topic today: what is the experience of being a student under your leadership? What is the experience of being a student under your leadership? And I spent a lot of time talking about that, and I'm gonna talk a little bit about it here. But you gave me these talking points, and I want the fam to hear what you have to say relative to these comments. So let me put these put one of them up on the screen. You said sense of belonging refers to the extent to which students feel personally accepted, included, and supported at school. And you got that from Goodnow and Grady. What are you telling us when you say that to us?
So I'm in the process of writing book number 2, and that book is entitled "Don't Bring Boxed Macaroni to the Potluck." And the reason why I named it that, I mean, think about your traditional potluck. You show up, everybody brings in their best dish, right? And depending on which kind of potluck you're going to, like there's reputations on the line with what you're bringing in to that potluck. So me personally, I'm not the best cook. So I was always, whenever we talk about bringing potluck, I say I bring it in the plates. I got you on the cups and the utensils. I got you, right? Because I know I'm not going to shine the way like some of my colleagues are going to be able to shine. I'm not going to be able to do it the same way that other people are able to do it, right? But sometimes we anticipate, oh, I got to go to the potluck because I know that Sister Green is going to bring in her famous yams, or brother Jones, he's going to bring in those neck bones. Like those things we know is coming. The mac and cheese is coming. But when we think about it from a school standpoint, let's just imagine the school is that potluck and everybody's bringing their best. And then someone slides in that boxed Kraft macaroni. Now, people might argue, oh, well, I was in a pinch. This is all I could do. This is all I could afford. This is all I could bring in at this short notice. Well, if we aren't intentional with our efforts, with creating a sense of belonging in our schools, where all our students feel accepted, supported, and included within that community, it's almost as if we're bringing in boxed macaroni to the potluck. Lack of effort, not a lot of intentionality, maybe even a rushed job. So when I think about what it means to experience school, a lot of times school at the minimum should be just safety. Like we can go into Maslow, we can go into that, but at the minimum, a student should feel as if they are accepted, supported, and included. If not, they cannot have a sense of belonging. And so when I found this work from Goodnow and Grady, 1993, it's crazy how a lot of research, a lot of information that comes out is still relevant today. Right? It's 30 years ago, yet that makes so much sense. I think so much we spend so much time on semantics. Oh, equity. Oh, this or that. And all these terms come up and they're trigger words for a lot of folks. I think at the end of the day, we can all agree that as educators, as school leaders, we want the best for our students, and we should know that, yeah, academics are important, but do we really think a student can perform at their best if they feel isolated and ostracized throughout their classroom, throughout the hallways, and they have no friends? Are they dealing with stuff at home, or are they dealing with teachers that feel that they hate them? No, they're not going to perform their best.
That's right.
So we should be striving to make sure that those kids feel accepted, supported, and included. So that's what we mean by that.
So let's stay there. So here you are, leader, in your second school, past leader, and then we got this leadership audience. The folks in here who are the regulars, they know where I stand as it relates to instructional leadership, instructional coaching, relative to that administrator teacher collegial relationship. Everybody knows that. That's what the new book is about. This coming out in December. But here's my question to you. I'm leader of a school. I'm on the call right now. I'm part of the fam out there. Or I'm assistant principal. I'm one of the fam out here in the assistant principal capacity. And that student that doesn't feel that he or she belongs in the school, in the classroom, that student that doesn't feel that he or she is welcome in that space, or that student that doesn't feel that he or she matters while in that space. As a principal, what might I do, say, systems that I put in place to ensure, because I'm not the teacher, so I don't have the same access that the teacher does to the student directly. What might I say? What might I do? What type of systems might I put in place to increase the probability that Every youngster that walks in that school does, in fact, feel that I belong in this space. What are your thoughts?
First of all, you will never know any of that unless you ask.
Mm,
You know how many times I've talked to teachers, I've talked to principals, and tell you, "Oh no, we don't have any issues at our school." You know that's just national news. That's not here. Not us. Not at all. The kids are great. They are experiencing everything. But okay, I like to push back on that a little bit because I will ask all every last you got 375 kids in your school. Every last one of them feels as if you're like what you're saying is true for all of them. And and then the next, and if they still say, they're still confident in saying yes, then I say, well, how do you know? Because if
yeah.
I pull one of your kids right now and ask them these questions, do I feel as if my principal loves me and knows my name? What are they gonna say?
Mm,
So that's the first part is we have to ask those questions. Now, I always recommend, if you can ask it maybe in an anonymous way, or if you provided a space in which students feel like you have invited kids to interact with you in that capacity, if you develop that type of relationship, then students will be willing to share that information. But you have to ask them first. A couple things that can be done that I would say are arguably rather simple, but they're effective strategies to help promote or create that sense of belonging. Is one, creating those affinity spaces.
mm,
Okay, opportunities. I mean, I was just working with a school on the East Coast, and they have a group of Muslim students that had nowhere to pray, and so just a simple thing as creating a prayer room. So they had a prayer room, but it was so difficult, and there were so many barriers for students to get there. The door was always locked, so they had to pass through a classroom to get the key from the teacher that had the access to the key. Then they had to go back into the go out of that classroom. Again, teachers teaching in the middle of class, so they got to go in there, get the key, then go in there, and then the room was messed up. It's dirty. It was dark in there. It looked like a janitor's closet.
mm,
And so that was the allocated space for their prayer room. And so part of what I was doing working with the school was I was working with the students, and we were coming up with, okay, this would help make our experience better as students. So I like to work with students and say, okay, what's going on? How is school for you? What if money wasn't an issue, resources, whatever it might be, what would you need in order to have that sense of belonging? And that was one of the comments that came up. We need a space, an allocated space for us to pray. Okay, let's give some strategies because principals are busy, and we want to not only bring this to their attention, but we also want to present some solutions for them. And so that was what we did. Put a whole PowerPoint together. Here's what our current prayer room looks like. Here's some strategies for us. Maybe we could think about a key code. Maybe we can think about having the key in a different location so that we do not have to interrupt a teacher in order to get that the access to the key. So just those simple things. So that's just one example of what an affinity space could look like. There's other areas. I mean, we have chess clubs, we have gamers clubs, we have all these, sports. We have all these different quote unquote affinity groups. But for some reason, when it comes to culturally based, when it comes to racially based affinity groups, oh, that's segregation.
mm,
That's we're why are we see that's the problem. We're segregating our kids. But we had no problem with the chess club.
mm.
No problem with that. That's
Yeah.
totally fine. That's acceptable. Well, what about the other kids that aren't interested in playing chess?
Yeah.
That doesn't seem to be an issue. So that's the first thing.
You froze. I hope you come back. If you refresh, and if you have to if you can hear me, go out and come back in. Y'all stay to the fam, y'all stay in place.
Similar.
There we go. Hey, Doc, you froze for about 30 seconds.
Am I back?
Yeah,
Okay.
you're back now.
Okay, I don't know where I left off.
Just go.
Okay, I was just saying, just finding a space where students can interact with each other, like-minded spaces. It's not segregation. Okay, you're not perpetuating any of those kind of things. I just think that a lot of that is just pushback. So that's the first part. The second part is another thing that relatively simple is just more diversity within your books. And I know we hear that a lot, you know, bring in more books of written by people of color, but be intentional with that space. I know a lot of individuals that will go to diversitybooks.com or .org and just purchase 100 books. Okay, we put it in our school library. We diverse now. We got books that look like the kids.
Yeah.
All right, they'll say that stuff, but it's not intentional. Okay, well, let's look at some of those books. Okay, are all of the books written by people of color? Are they all written from the struggle standpoint? You know, civil rights, or you know, Dr. King book or Rosa Parks book. Are the characters within the book? Are the parents? Do they have positions in which they require a college degree? What are they living in apartments? Are they living in large mansions? What are the backgrounds behind these students? Again, are the books just, you know, okay, this book is about police brutality. This book is about this another social justice issue. Or are we celebrating Black joy? Are we celebrating the accomplishments, inventions, great things that are happening? Or are we only still putting it into a trying to get the same rights or equal rights as everybody else? If we do those two things, that's 2 steps that we can take. And of course, you have to read the book in order to get some additional strategies, but those are things that we can do. I mean, we got summer coming up. We can start planning. We can start thinking about what our next school year looks like. And again, if we just buy books just to say we bought books, but there's no intentionality behind it. If I sit there and I ask the librarian where are those books at, and there's the diversity section in the library. Okay, so they're over there. All our diverse books are here, and then everything else is all over everywhere else. Like, you know, it's like very like, why are we doing it this way? We should be our students should be able to see themselves daily and not just one section within our library.
That's right. You know, I got this thing I do. I'm glad you said that. I got this thing I do when I do an after school, or well, it doesn't have to be after school. When I do a workshop or a presentation in a library, a school library, then I immediately go to the books and to see where are the Black authored books or the books with Black themes, and typically it's a small section.
Mm-hmm.
So I was in a library, and they had I think it was 2 school staffs in the room. So, and they had diversity issues, all that kind of stuff. So I go to the books, and I say, let me see what they got in here. So I see this book that's dealing with Black scientists and inventors. Okay, cool. I said to the staff, tell me in unison, you all on the count of 3, who's responsible for the invention of these light bulbs in this library? 1, 2, 3. They all yelled out, Thomas Edison. I said, all right. Now I got a book here in my hand, and I looked in the book to make sure it had what I need, and it did. So I said, I'm here for one thing, but we're gonna deviate now, and we're gonna talk about one of these chapters in this book. And the chapter was about Lewis Latimer. So I began to read some of what was in there, and how Lewis Latimer, who was a product of 2 enslaved Africans who escaped but were caught in Massachusetts and sent back, but he stayed because he was born there. And now, ultimately, because I don't want to turn this into a history lesson, but ultimately he became a draftsman by studying other draftsmen. Thomas Edison got wind of him, offered him a job. And now when Thomas Edison in around 1881 comes up with this light bulb, it's not practical yet. It burns out quickly. It gets excessively hot. It's dangerous to produce. It's costly to produce. But Lewis Latimer, with his sharp scientific mind, and just to be clear with my fam out here, who was African American, for those that don't know, he says to Thomas Edison, I know what's wrong with this bulb. I can perfect this. I can make this thing work. And he goes on and inserts. He said, how? He said, let me insert this carbon thread filament, this wiring, and this should take care of all those issues. He went on and did it. And the light bulbs that we use today are the Lewis Latimer bulbs. So now I'm saying to this group of 2 schools of education staff, the information is right here in the library. But this book, I feel like I'm the first person that ever opened it. You know, you open a new hardcover book and all that cracking sound in the spine, right? So I said, "Man, I think I'm the only one that read this book. It opened this book up. So it's not, as you just said, it's not just ordering the book, but now let's see what's in the book. And we may find out that there's some mind-blowing information in there. And a lot of teachers that I expose this kind of history to, they tell me, they say, man, I feel like I've been lying to these students for my whole career because they were not aware, right? So
and they just wait till February to open that book.
yeah, February, and we ain't gonna cover but so much in the month of February, right? So we need a lifetime to get that information out here. You know, I want to stay with this talking point. You said you got time, I got time. The show ain't till 8 o'clock tonight on Broadway, so we good. Hey, y'all, stay here, man. We got a lot to talk about here. You know, Dr. Eakins, let me be a student. I'm this shy student. I don't speak the lingo of the majority. I don't fit in with the majority. They don't want to be bothered with me because I'm not with them. I don't look like them. I don't speak like them. I don't dress like them. I don't have the hairstyles that they have. I have nothing that they have. And therefore the comfort that I feel at home does not transfer to the cafeteria at my school. It doesn't transfer to the locker room in my school. It doesn't transfer to the playground at my school. It doesn't transfer to my classroom. I feel very uneasy. I feel ostracized. I feel scrutinized. I'm harassed. I'm teased. I'm not emotionally safe in my classroom. As someone who's an advocate for this sense of belonging, and just keep in mind, we got a leadership audience here, not the teacher audience. What do you say to our leaders watching right now, the fam watching right now? Because that kid I just described is in every one of y'all schools, bar none. All of y'all have that kid. What do you say to that? What do you say to our leaders toward in September or August when they go back to school, that this youngster can feel a lot more comfortable now because the principal is armed with certain information that they didn't have before this broadcast?
One of the things, I'll give you an example. I started my position, this new position, as a school principal in April. So I'm relatively new back on the scene.
Yeah.
And so one of my missions from the jump was to introduce myself, let the students know who I am. So I went around to the various rooms, various areas. Hi, I'm Dr. Eakins. Hi, we go by first names. So I'm like, hi, I'm Sheldon. I'm the new principal. What's your name? I had a student, for example, that a few of our teachers had mentioned to me, Sheldon, can you go talk to this kid, because he's clearly not socially, I guess he's having some social challenges with interacting with some of the other students. Can you talk to this kid? So I'm one of those individuals that I understand from a student's perspective. When the principal comes to calls you out of the classroom, there's going to be some sort of hesitation. There's going to be maybe even some fear that's going to be invoked, especially if you have not created that relationship yet. Like, this is one of the first or second interactions that we've had, right? So I bring him into my office. I sit him down. I said, first of all, you're not in trouble. I just want to talk to you for a few moments. Him and I talked for about 15, maybe even 20 minutes before I even discussed what I had initially brought him in for. So I'm asking, where are you from? How's your family? How do you like the school? Like, I'm asking a lot of these background questions. Again, we talked about sense of belonging, but I won't know how a student really feels unless I've asked them. I've invited them to share with me, and they know that they can share with me without any repercussions. I'm not going to get offended. I'm not going to jump on them. I'm not going to start getting all defensive. Oh, well, you're just not giving school a chance. I'm not doing any of those things. I'm listening to them and validating their perspective, because their experience is their experience. So for any principal that's out there and students are telling them, again, we've asked them and our students are telling us, hey, I do not feel as if I am part of the community, the school. I don't have friends. I don't have this. I don't have that. I like to ask, okay, going back to the young man that I was speaking to, I said, okay, how was your experience here? And he shared with me. He said, you know what? I'm typically kind of to myself. And I said, what are you into? What do you like? What would make your experience better? Again, money isn't an issue. Resources isn't a thing. What would improve upon your experience? Because I said, I'm the principal. I have access to those resources. I can help you out. Just tell me what you need.
Yeah.
But again, we won't know these things unless we ask. Sometimes students will come to us and bring some stuff that's so heavy that, you know what, I'm not qualified to address it. I could support you as best as I can, but you know what? We have a school counselor. Our school counselor is going to create some opportunities to establish, like they have the resource, they have the education and experience to be able to support you with those goals that you need. So the other piece that I would actually say, which I think is very important, if you have school counselors, mental health support, that is definitely necessary. One of the things I had my counselor do was I said, we're going to do 15-minute school-wide social emotional learning oriented activities for your students. Okay. This is an opportunity for them to do some self-discovery. This is an opportunity for them to learn about each other and peer interactions, but you're going to facilitate this. I think those kind of things invite more students to participate, invite more students to be a part of the community. Now, again, our introverted folks like myself, that may not be as appealing. Maybe I don't want to share all of my emotions and my feelings and my deepest, darkest thoughts in front of the entire school, in front of my class, and those kind of things. So those small one-on-one sessions, those small group sessions are very important. But sometimes we approach our students in a way like, as leaders, we don't consider, you know what, this student might be a little, I mean, I could look at this child, this student, I could see he was nervous. Again, I just got there, and this is our first interaction. So rather than me jumping straight into the conversation about maybe his social skills and some of the interactions that he's had, no, I got an opportunity to share with him, like, here, look, I just moved here from Idaho. Here's what I was experiencing. Here's my life. Here's a little bit about myself. Tell me about yourself. How are things? Okay, look, I do want to talk to you about this one little thing. Can you help me out with this area? He said, I got you. No worries. I'll fix that issue. We'll change that. We'll go for it. And then that was it. That was that interaction. But again, we won't know this without asking those questions and without attempting to establish those relationships with our students. Even if we aren't in the classroom, that's totally fine. But we have to make it very intentional with our efforts when it comes to interacting with students and understanding what they are experiencing. But we will not know that unless we ask.
Love it. Powerful stuff. You know, I'm gonna go to this second one, but I want to say to the folks out here, we got people who are on now that may not have necessarily been on during my rundown. Folks, first hit the share button, hit the retweet button, hit the repost button, tag somebody, tag them Facebook leadership groups, and let them know we're here. Call someone, text someone, let them know we're here. We're not anywhere near finished. We got a lot to talk about today. We're talking about what is the experience of being a student under your leadership, right? Not what's the experience of being in the school, not the experience of being in the classroom. What's the experience of being a student under your leadership? But I also want you to know that for those of you that checked in late, starting August 3rd, the first Saturday in August, I'm no longer going to be streaming to Facebook and Twitter. We're going to be strictly YouTube. This is going to be strictly a YouTube platform. So I shared to Facebook and Twitter today from the YouTube channel. So if you want to start getting used to it, you can go right to the YouTube channel, but you can also go to the Facebook page or the Twitter page where you normally would have gone. And I have the YouTube link sitting there. I shared it while we were on live. So you can test that out and see how it works, because I just don't like Facebook and Twitter anymore for this platform. I just want to be exclusively YouTube. I'm not going to get into all the specifics as I did earlier today, because that's going to take too much time. But that's where we're going. We're going to be a YouTube platform. So mark your calendars. I don't want you to August 3rd say, oh, Kefele must not be coming on. No, I'm going to be here. Trust me. I'm going to be here with my guests, but I want you to join me on YouTube. With that said, I also want to make sure that the folks that checked in late, that you realize that the author is here of Leading Equity, Dr. Sheldon. And when he pronounced his last name, I said, man, and me and everybody else pronouncing it wrong, because you said Akins, and we've been saying Eakins, right?
It looks like Eakins. It looks like Eakins, but yeah, it's Akins.
It's Akins. So Sheldon L. Akins, PhD, right? So Leading Equity, becoming an advocate. And we're going to be talking about that word advocate in a little while, y'all. Becoming an advocate for all students. So you can get this at Amazon right now if you like. Go on a different device and order your copy. Dynamite book. And I might add, y'all see that name on there? You where's my finger? You see? Oh, there you go. You see that name on there? Baruti Kafele. Hey, Mom. My mother's watching. Hey, Ma, you see my name on the back of his book? Gave it that endorsement, man.
Yeah, hey, appreciate you. Yeah, that means a lot.
God is good. God is good. Gives me the opportunity to endorse my brothers and sisters out here doing these books, man. I appreciate you. Let's go to this next one. Safety. You said safety is the foundation that nurtures our students' sense of love and belonging, paving the way for their positive self-esteem, self-actualization, and an insatiable thirst for knowledge. And I had to put 3 dots because StreamYard only gave me 200 characters, so it's here. And comprehension. So again, an insatiable thirst for knowledge and comprehension. What are you telling us here?
Listen, I always like to say, what did Father Abraham say? So, you know, and I'm not talking about the song we used to sing as kids. Father Abraham had many sons. Not that Father Abraham. I'm talking about Maslow. You know, the thing about what Maslow talks about with his hierarchy of needs and that self-actualization, safety is there. You know, that's the minimum, one of the minimum needs that we need in order to survive and thrive. Right. Sometimes we put a lot of emphasis on academics because we know testing is there. Our data needs to be on point, and I get it. State testing, standardized, all that stuff. I know it's there. However, if a child does not feel safe, if a child, we have to keep in mind there's situations that a lot of our students are dealing with outside of the classroom, outside of the school itself. And so the least thing that we could do is provide a safe haven for our students. That needs to not just be words that we're putting on paper or on the wall that says we believe in, but they also need to see that as actionable steps that we are taking as school leaders. So that's the bare minimum, because when students feel safe in their environment, guess what? They are more likely to engage in learning. They're more likely to take risk. If I know that I can go up to my principal and I can ask them or tell them how I feel, and I know that I'm not going to, respectfully, and I know I'm not going to get any type of backlash or pushback or anything that's going to make me, again, feel uncomfortable or regret me asking those questions or making those comments, then yeah, I'm going to more than likely hear what my students are feeling when they experience school. So they have to feel safe. And not only that, our students are going to be more likely to engage within their own learning. When we provide a space for students to critically think, to be able to express themselves and not have to tiptoe and go through all these norms, but they can legitimately be themselves. How many times have you, I'm sure Principal Kafele, you've been invited to some of your students' events, recitals and activities and things like that, and you watch them within their element.
Yeah.
In their space.
Yeah.
And then it's like, man, that looks a lot different. Or I didn't know this child does these things because at school they act a certain way. Well, are they acting a certain way in school because they are forced to act that way?
Yeah.
Or are they acting a certain way because they feel comfortable, they feel safe to express themselves, to express their identity, to dress the way they want to dress, to be able to interact the way they want to be able to interact? That is where that engagement is going to increase. When students feel safe, when they feel more comfortable, they're more likely to do their best in those type of environments.
Your comments hit home, because although we're talking about young people in pre-K to 12, I'm thinking about 63-year-old me as you speak.
Mm,
I'm not, and I'm, as a presenter, you can relate to this. I am not the same person on every platform.
mm,
And when I say platform, folks, I'm not talking about social media. I'm talking about stage. I'm not the same person on every stage. I feel safer amongst different audiences than I do others. Right. When I go into a room and it's all love, way before I start speaking. Like as soon as I walk in, it's all love. Everybody's coming to the table. People walking over there with their books. They want that selfie. My keynote going to be out of it. I'm gonna knock it out the park. It's going to
yeah.
be a Josh Gibson grand slam.
Yes.
But then I go the next day, same topic, but ain't nobody say hello. No one said hi, one syllable hi, right? Just it's just they cold, man. Nobody looking at me when I walk through. Well, I don't feel the same, man. It ain't no love
Mhm.
in there. I don't know that I've been embraced. I'm going to earn it once I get to the stage, but I'm talking about walking up there. I'm not the same. I'm not as loose. I got a little tension in me, right? I'm
Mhm.
not as loose because the environment didn't make me feel safe enough to be truly my authentic self when I get up there. See, that's not just for the babies. That's for all of us, y'all. Right? That's for you in your building. Some of y'all, some of you in a certain school, and just a difference in staff in terms of their reactions to you can make that difference. So when you think about the safety of children emotionally, think about yourself as well. But I love that that you brought that up because it made me think about that probably deeper than I normally do. Because I applied it to, well, I'm not as welcome here, but I've never thought about it as I'm not as safe here emotionally, right? But what essentially what's happening is, yeah, I'm safer in this environment, so now I can get up there and do my thing. Some people know that I get up to my Frankie Beverly We Are One and do my two-step to start the keynote, but I'm not going to do that everywhere.
Yeah.
It depends on how I'm received when I walk in that room. And if I'm received the right way, then I know I'm gonna tell the tech people when they read my bio, when they hit that last word of my bio, hit that first note on We Are One and keep it on until I tell you to turn it off, because I'm gonna get up there and dance. And I'm not a dance. My wife would be the first one to tell you, I ain't gonna dance on the cruise ship.
Yeah.
And I'm not the star. I'm not going to dance at the wedding, but I'll dance at that keynote with thousands of eyes on me, because it's just a different vibe. I'm in principal Kafele mode, and the people have made me feel safe. So let me throw one
Can I
at you. Yeah, no, jump in. And then I'm
can
gonna
I add? Okay, because you got me thinking now, right? I remember, I don't know, you probably done this before, where I've done a keynote where I'm it's virtual. I'm speaking into a camera. There's no chat. There's not a Zoom call. I
Ooh,
can't see anything.
woo,
You can't see the faces. You can't even see the names. Like, how on Zoom you see all the names.
yeah,
There's nothing. There is nothing. And I'm literally going hard for 60 minutes into darkness, if you will. Like, I don't know I hope my jokes are landing. I don't know what's going on.
yeah,
Versus, like you said, being on stage. And one of the things I always do, I always ask, is this a voluntary training or workshop
yeah,
keynote, or is this mandatory? Because you're gonna get different crowds. And like you said, like if I know this is voluntary, like the people that are in this space, like you said, they know me, they show up with their books, they know who I am, or I just did a book study with them, and so now I'm there physically. You're gonna get, like you said, not that I don't bring it every time. I like how you said you have to earn it on
yeah,
stage because they may not know who you are. I love that example, but that's how it is. I feel a lot safer when I'm entering in a space where I know folks are there because they want to be there, versus entering into a space where they have to be there.
yeah,
And so when we think about it from a student perspective, they have to go to school.
yeah,
But we want them to be at a place where they want to go to school. And that's where we should be thriving or striving for when it comes to that sense of belonging. We want them to want to go to that school. They want to look, they can't wait for tomorrow. I can't wait to see my principal. I can't wait to step through these doors at 13 years old, at 14 years old. So as adults, if we consider like we enter into space, I mean, man, listen, I was a black man living in Idaho. You talking about safety. You talking about walking to a space and wanting to feel safe. So I understand what that looks like when you feel like when you know you're the only person of color, let alone black person, let alone the only person or whatever identity you have, being able to walk into those spaces and how we feel as adults versus how a 12, 11, 10, 8-year-old might feel when they walk into these spaces.
I love it. I love it. The safety, that emotional safety is so important, folks. So just, never lose sight of that. You gave me another one here. The assimilation refers to the process through which individuals and groups of differing heritages acquire the basic habits, attitudes, and mode of life of an embracing culture. Merriam-Webster, what are you saying to us?
Listen, when I was doing my research, I type in assimilation, and I go back and forth with Merriam-Webster's and dictionaries because my challenge with a lot of these, especially the type of words I'm looking for, when I type in racism and I read the definition of racism, for example, written by Merriam-Webster, it's probably not written by folks that look like you and I.
Mm-hmm.
And I can read that within that statement of what racism is. This doesn't put any real ownership or accountability on the perpetrator. This seems very victim oriented, but this is their perspective. So when I pulled up assimilation, because I'm typing this in, and what stood out to me, which was like just thinking about going against as much like just going against sense of belonging, is the embracing culture. It reminded me of Dr. Tatum's work. Why are the black kids sitting in the cafeteria, right? That really reminded me. I was like, okay, this is literally what it's saying. Because we talk about, can I be myself? Well, in order for me to feel included or part of the community, that means that I can't be myself. I have to do what the embracing culture is wanting me to do. And that's my challenge with this definition. I would love to say, you know what? The reality of it is, all kids are able to, in a perfect world, all kids are able to be themselves, do what they want to do, and not have to do what it takes in order to be embraced a part of the culture. Yeah, sometimes we'll have those conversations where I'll talk to school leaders and they'll say, you know what? We have a group of kids that are, refugees. And so, we've tried to get them to interact with the rest of the students, but they just tend to stick to themselves. Or we've tried to get them, why don't they join us? Why don't they do this with us? And I say, well, so we're looking at it wrong. We're wanting them to join our embracing culture. Have you taken the time to get to know what their customs, what their language, what they do, and not put them on a tokenize them, right? So now we're spending too much like emphasis. Oh, we're so happy to see you. Welcome. We're not overly exerting ourselves to make them feel welcome. We're naturally involving them within our community, and we're we're intentionally asking questions, and we're intentionally trying to learn as much as we can so that we can see what they're interested in. There might be some commonalities, but if we don't ask those questions, we will never know. But if we spend so much time saying this is our school's community, this is our culture, this is what acceptable and this is what not acceptable, then we're part of that embracing culture. We do not want, I don't promote for our students to assimilate. I want our students to be themselves, because if we asking our students to assimilate, then we are basically saying, get rid of what you do unless it's what we do already. It's okay to be black and brown, but just don't be black and brown here. And that's where those challenges come about.
Y'all hear that last point that Dr. Akins made. It's okay to be black and brown, but just don't be black and brown here, right? I'm going to be very honest with you live on this platform. when I started this platform back in May of 2020, I made a very conscious, deliberate, intentional decision about my attire. So I had over time bought all these Negro League jerseys, and this is before Negro Leagues were fashionable in terms of the merger of the statistics into the major leagues. So I said, these jerseys, and this is just the summer alternates, but when I wear the regular jerseys during the fall and winter seasons, and spring, I said these jerseys might cost me some business. But you know something? I also said simultaneously, I'm good with that. Because it's almost like the jersey, it's like two things are happening. On the one hand, it's a sense of pride in wearing these jerseys. And I would explain back in those first 2 years, I would literally explain the jersey every Saturday. My mother would get on me weeks I forgot, right? Like, you forgot to mention the shirt, right? And so I would make sure that every week I gave some history of the shirt I was wearing. So on the one hand, it was me expressing this Black pride on a platform that's really just supposed to be about school leadership, right? So I'm expressing this Black pride, but on the other hand, it's almost like it's a protest, right? I'm deliberately throwing something Black at you every Saturday, even though it's not a Black broadcast. It's a leadership broadcast that has people of various races and ethnicities and cultures that tune in. But I made a decision back in that first Saturday of May that this is me, and I'm going to be me, even if there are costs involved. See, because like you said, I don't want to assimilate either. As far as leadership is concerned, base whether or not you want to hire me on whether or not I can help your leaders to grow, or your teachers, because I work with teachers as well, to grow pedagogically, teachers, leadership as far as leaders. Don't look at my shirt and make a decision, right? Or respect the fact that I'm willing to wear it, but don't expect me to assimilate and be whatever the crowd is, so that I can get hired to come in and speak. Right. That's, so I just want to be, just let me be me. And when I slip into my Ebonics, which I regularly do, and my slang and my broken English, let me be me, because I can fix that. I choose not to. I'll tell my audience, I know I could have said that differently, but I want to say it the way I say it in my house. I want to say it the way when I'm speaking to my homies. Right. I don't want to clean it up when I get on stage. I just want to be me. And I'm gonna go a step further, let me go a step further. As an author for ASCD, I had an editor that was cleaning my stuff up, and I didn't want it cleaned up. I wanted it to come across the way I present. I wanted people, when they read a book written by Baruti Kafele, that they say, I feel the guy I saw on stage. I feel that same energy. So I got this new editor. I said, you got to keep my authenticity. If I repeat words for emphasis, I need it like that. Don't. So now I got this editor that lets me be me, because I don't want to assimilate. And that's the whole point, right? As you say, I want that student. Now let's get back to the student, to be able to maintain their authenticity. If there's if within the authenticity that I need to evolve and grow, okay, then help me with that. But at the core, let me stay true to myself, because sometimes keeping it real can be bad, right? So so I want to make sure that at my core, folks know who I am, right? So I don't want to mislead anybody on the platform that could be significantly younger than me, and so, oh man, I'm going in there raw now. No, you in the system, so keep that in mind. Right.
Yeah.
We're just
We're
talking
not trying to get folks fired.
But if you got, for example, if you got your locks, don't cut them off so you can get your principalship. I think that's what I'm saying. Right.
I've done that. I'm not gonna lie. There was a time years ago, and
wow.
I've kept my hair like this I was 10 years. I'm fortunate enough that I haven't lost my hair yet. I'm one of the few brothers that's over 40 that still I can still rock this.
Still
But
rocky.
I can still rock it. But I remember I up for job interviews. I would cut my hair, go down to the waves, and do my interview, trying to get the job. And then if I got the position, I grow it right back out.
Yeah.
I stopped doing that because I'm like, this is me. You know, you hire me 6 months from now, it's gonna look like this.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I need to be myself and accurately represent myself because I get job interviews, first impressions, things like that. But I'm just at a place in life nowadays that, you know what, I have, like, if you can't take me as I am and you can't see past my appearance, yeah, I like wearing earrings. I like to grow my hair. I like to twist. I like to, this is who I am. This is what I get down on. And if you aren't okay with that, you know, I feel bad for individuals, for example, that, you know, tatted up a bunch of ink. And, you know, some folks, you know, I'll go wear long sleeve shirts to my job interviews. I won't wear short sleeves because I want to make sure my arms are covered up. Like these little things that folks will do to suppress their identity in order to get positions, in order to get clout, in order to get what they think they need to get, in order, like, I have to do these things in order to be heard. Yeah. And I'm just at a place now. It's just like, no, be you, be authentic. And that's the same thing that we should want our students to be as well.
That's right. That's right. I love it. That's a whole conversation right there. And if I allow myself, it'll stay there. So let me keep moving. And you gave me this one more. You said, regardless of a student's age, gender, or any other aspect of their identity as a human being, the most detrimental experience of their mental and physical well-being is their sense of being, and I got to read it from my page, being unseen or unimportant. I want to get that last line again. So let me get the whole thing. Regardless of the student's age, gender, or any other aspect of their identity as a human being, the most detrimental experience for their mental and physical well-being is their sense of being unseen or unimportant. Powerful stuff. What are you telling us?
Listen, I told you already, I'm an introvert. I remember my 20-year high school our reunion came up, and I remember flipping through, and I'm one of the, you know, I'm part of the Facebook for my school Facebook page, our graduation class. And I remember sitting there thinking to myself, would my classmates remember me? I was quiet. I'm not gonna lie. I didn't talk a lot. I was pretty quiet back in the high school days. And again, I'm typically pretty quiet now. And so I'm thinking 20 years from now, it's been 20 years. Honestly, haven't just kept up with everybody, sure, Facebook friends and things like that. But honestly, I felt unseen. I felt as if, yeah, I had a handful of friends. But outside of that, and I got along with some of the teachers, but I didn't have a personal relationship with my principal. Like, again, 20 years from now, I don't know if that principal would remember me. And those are some things that I think are very important. And I didn't have like this identity that maybe wasn't part, you know, like a lot, you know, wasn't something that was different and those kind of things. I was just a really quiet, shy student. So sometimes we think, oh, this individual has to be like, quote unquote, weird, or they need to be socially awkward. They need to come with something. It doesn't necessarily have to be the case. Sometimes kids are just quiet.
Yeah.
It just, you know, I don't talk a lot.
Yeah.
But I still would like to be appreciated. I still would like to have a relationship. I still would like to feel as if I'm part of the school community. Just because I'm not participating in all the sports and I'm not doing all the social clubs, I'm not running for class president and all these kind of things, doesn't mean I don't want to be seen. So when we are a student, regardless of their age, regardless of their gender or any aspects of their identity as a human being, the worst thing that we can do is straight up say, oh, well, they want to be quiet. We'll just let them be quiet. They want to stick to themselves, and we'll just let them stick to themselves. That doesn't mean that I'm advocating for putting them on stage somewhere and go make them do a public speech. What I'm saying is that student probably will thrive in a one-on-one relationship small group relationship. That student will probably thrive in an area in which they can vent, they can share with you, they can get their cup filled and go back into the classroom and perform at their best. Those little things that we don't necessarily think about because we're so focused on the popular kids, or we're so focused on the kids on the total opposite of that side, right? But we're missing some of the middle students, or those students that, again, they're just quiet, or maybe just, whatever it is, but they are experiencing school differently. So when I say we're going to be an advocate for all students, again, if you got 375 at your school, you want all 375 of your students to feel as if they're accepted, supported, and included.
That's right. That's right. Hear that, somebody, and then think about those of you in those big Texas, California mega schools where they're like 3,000 and 4,000.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they count too.
Yep.
They count too. But so you got teams, you got leadership team, and you got administrators that lead different grade levels, etc. So you got to make sure that you account for every student in that building, even when you got that big mega school, looks like a shopping mall that is so big. I was in one the other day in Spring ISD, and as soon as I walked in with my contact, Dr. Monique Lewis, I said, this feels like a mall, a shopping mall. It's so huge because we don't have schools like that in Jersey. It's just the front lobby alone is just huge. Let me go to your book, Leading Equity, Becoming an Advocate for All Students. The subtitle is what catches me probably more than the title, because of one word, the word advocate. Becoming an advocate for all students. The word advocate is an important word in education. I say it all the time. Without me giving my own thoughts for now, I'll come back to them. What is the significance? Why this word advocate? What is the significance of this word advocate, not only to the book, but to your work as an author, as a consultant, as a speaker, as a school leader, as an educator? Talk to us about this word.
When I first started my podcast, my show, my early episodes, probably maybe the first 100 episodes, people, again, starting to build an audience, people starting to listen. A lot of my earlier episodes were on a lot of information to create a sense of urgency. And again, selfishly, I started the show because I wanted to know what I was experiencing. Like, I was just getting hit with so many things, or my students were getting hit with so many things. I didn't know what it was called. So a lot of the early episodes was me doing my research to find out, okay, what is a microaggression? Oh, okay, that's what a microaggression is. Oh, okay. What is culturally responsive teaching? Oh, okay, that's what culture. So it was a lot of foundational understanding. But what happened over time was individuals like, okay, Sheldon, we get it. We need to do better. Okay, there's some things that I can do in my position, but I don't know how. How do I do it? I get it. I hear what you're saying. Things need to change. We need to kind of revisit some of the systems that we have in place, some of my teaching strategies, some of my leadership strategies. I need to revisit some of that, but how? So that's where the advocacy piece comes through, right? An advocate recognizes that we do not live in a just society, and advocates are willing to speak up on behalf of others. So I might be in a position where I can broker an opportunity for, I know this school leader, brand new, or I know this aspiring school leader, but I know someone else that works with individuals who does that work, or has been in the game for so many years, is looking to mentor. How do I connect these two individuals together so that ultimately the students are going to be positively impacted? That's one part of it, right? I'm in a position where, I have access to resources. I have access to present something. How do I support those individuals with that presentation? How do I help them? A lot of folks will tell me, you know what, Sheldon, I'm frankly, just being honest, I'm afraid of losing my job. If I ruffle to, I've already kind of been silenced, or people know at this point that I have an agenda. So when they come up to me, when they hear me show up, they're already shutting down, or I just feel like I'm hitting walls. I feel like I'm the lone wolf. And I always say, okay, well, can you utilize your students, right? Because your students can't get fired. So the least you can do is provide some opportunities for them to advocate on their behalf or have help them advocate for themselves. So that word again, I'm big on not creating labels such as allies or such as safe place or safe person. Like these things aren't action oriented to me. To me, advocacy, being a disruptor, these are terms that are verbs. These are things that I'm doing stuff. I'm actually going to intentionally strive to support. And if I'm in a position in which I can help other people and I recognize that this, this is wrong. And how do I support or how do I make those changes? That does require advocacy. I could sit and go to my office every day and just make sure that the finances are good, students' test scores are great, and folks graduate. I can just do that, and that's my job. Or I could say, you know what? I hear students are telling me this and they're telling me that, and I'm in a position of power. I'm in a position to make those changes, and I'm going to advocate for that. I'm going to advocate for those resources. I'm going to advocate for providing more mental health support. I'm going to advocate for my staff as well. These are things that we can do, but they're all action oriented, not something that I'm just saying, putting a piece of paper on the wall somewhere.
You know, when I think of the word advocate and advocate, the word that always comes to my mind, and I've said this on this platform before, is the word fighter. And I want to be a fighter. I want to fight for my staff when they can't fight for themselves. You know, when there's certain directives that come down above me, I want to run as much interference as I can without me getting myself into trouble. But I want to be that advocate for them where they can't be that advocate for themselves when these directives come down. But then I also want to be that advocate for my young people, right? For the same exact reasons, right? Am I there for them? If I have a child in a classroom with a teacher who is substandard, a teacher who is not quite where we want that teacher to be, we're working with that teacher, but in real time, I'm not there. I still got to be that fighter for that youngster to increase the probability that I'm doing my part to make that teacher great, or at least facilitate the process, as opposed to allowing that teacher, that youngster to exist in that classroom and not have the same proficiency that the youngster next door may be receiving from a teacher, right? So it forces me to be that instructional leader, among other aspects of the leadership that I have to be, toward fighting for this kid to have an equitable opportunity to be successful. So I'll just throw it to fam right now, real quick, before I go back to you, Doc. Hey, fam, are you fighting? I know you're leading your students. I know you're leading your staff. But I'm asking you a different question. I'm asking you, are you fighting for them? Are you advocating for them? But in the context of the question, I just love the word fighting a little bit more. Are you fighting for them, right? Not just with them, but are you fighting for them? Are you fighting for your staff toward helping your staff to get to where it is that you feel that they can be, toward bringing about the success that you know that you all can generate in your school? It matters. That word advocate, man. I got a Mount Rushmore that's not, you know how we have the basketball debate on our Mount Rushmore, who's our top 4 all time, whether it be football, basketball. It's usually a basketball conversation, but it changes. You know, my Mount Rushmore in basketball, you ask me on Monday, it's going to sound different on Tuesday. Well, I'm the same way with words, not jargon, but words in education. I got certain words that I say, these are my top 4. So intentionality is one of my words. Attitude is one of my words. Advocacy is one of my words. But then another day, something might pop up, and I said, nah, I got to go with this one. But you can only fit 4 because there's only 4 of them presidents in South Dakota on that Mount Rushmore, right? But anyway, leading with equity. It's comprised of these 10 actionable steps, which you have as chapters. And I wanted to read these chapter titles, and then I want to isolate one. Know your biases and recognize your position of privilege as an educator. Number 2, get to know your students. Number 3, spend time with students outside school settings. Number 4, check your current language practices. Woo. Number 5, promote decolonial atmosphere. Promote a decolonial atmosphere. Number 6, adopt an advocacy mentality. Number 7, educate yourself. Number 8, model vulnerability and humility. Number 9, recognize how to build on students' assets. And then number 10, use social justice as the basis for advocacy. When I saw these before I wrote the endorsement, just these chapter titles alone told me that this is a book. This is a must-read book. When I was putting together my agenda for today, I asked myself, what's the one that stands out for me above everything else? And although I asked myself the question, Doc, the answer was very easy for me. And it's number 5, which is promote a decolonial atmosphere. That's mine, right? Because for me, that engenders the whole conversation around culturally relevant pedagogy. Do the children have opportunity to see themselves in the learning? Do the children have the opportunity to relate to the learning, to identify with the learning? But it also brought about culturally responsive relationships and practices within the classroom. When it made me think of just the environment of the room, what's on the walls, etc. It made me think of the relationship with the students. So that whole decolonization atmosphere, all of that, it just engenders all of that in my mind in terms of what that means to decolonize. So with that said, my question to you, I got a 2-part question. Number 1, which, if there's one that stands out for you, what is it and why? But let that be secondary. Primarily, I want to ask you, what is the significance, since I didn't go into the chapter, what is the significance of promote a decolonial atmosphere? What are you telling us with that one?
So I was a history teacher. And so I preface that's one of my favorite chapters, chapter 5, because when I was writing that chapter, it was me digging into a lot of the research behind our educational system. I've had the opportunity at the graduate level to teach, American history, educational system history, and I'd looked at what was in that textbook as far as what happened from our educational center. Now, it wasn't written by folks like us, unfortunately. And you can clearly see that because there's always these little sprinkled in, side notes, Native American boarding schools, or Plessy versus Ferguson and Brown versus Board, all like these little stuff that was just kind of thrown in. It wasn't centered within the content. When we look at our education system that we have today, goals, it's the same as it was during Industrial Revolution, where it's grades focused, age oriented. Basically, Thomas Jefferson, I don't have the quote in front of me, but he essentially said we want to create an educational system in which we're separating, we're tracking, basically. And it is crazy how back in those times, Thomas Jefferson days, where they were tracking then.
Yeah.
And so we see students that, come from wealthy families, that they get a certain type of education and they're encouraged to become certain type of professionals, versus the other students that are coming through. And again, we weren't necessarily allowed to read and be able to go to school. So we're talking about later on when we were allowed to do those type of things. But there's another group of folks that, okay, they're maybe the working class. And so we're going to kind of guide them this direction. But within that other group, there's some anomalies there. So there's some that might be a little gifted and a little bit talented in that area. So we're going to pull some of them and help them with our elite groups as well. We still utilize a lot of that stuff to this day.
Yeah.
Now, I got to give a shout out to Dr. James A. Banks, his work with
Okay.
multicultural education, and the stuff that he talks about. He says, you know what? A lot of times, teachers that are, again, best intentions, they want to be culturally responsive with their practices. What they'll do is they'll wait till, we're teaching about, for example, the expansion of the United States. So we're going to talk about the Louisiana Purchase, and so we're going to talk about it from, you got was it Lewis and Clark, and we have, and then we'll just kind of mention about Sacagawea and the impact that Sacagawea had. So it's kind of like we're centering dominance in one perspective, but then we'll just kind of sprinkle in a little side note, a little special lesson on Sacagawea, and kind of talk about it from that perspective. Or we'll wait till Black History Month, or we'll wait till Native American History Months or Heritage. Like, we'll wait till those special times to present this information. Okay, I'm being culturally responsive, right? But he says best intentions, but that's not it. However, there's some folks that'll go a little bit further, right? Okay, they recognize that those tokenized holidays and those kind of things, it's not just that. That's where we shouldn't stop. We can go beyond that. And so they'll do like they'll do a whole unit this time, or they'll just go a little bit further. But again, you're still centering dominance, right? When we're thinking about what our schools look like and the content that they're getting, who's involved in that? All right, who's involved in that process? So he says what we should be doing is students should experience themselves daily, not just once a month, not just once a year, not just your international festival or whatever event that you do at school. No, this is something that they experience on a daily basis. And so but in order for that to happen, would mean that you would have to go against the grain, if you will, or decolonize your classroom. A lot of the traditional stuff that we have, what we consider traditional, is not necessarily conducive to all folks of learning. One of the things I've recently been doing is I've been doing a lot of work on culture from a different perspective. So sometimes we think about culture from a racial standpoint, an identity standpoint. But there's communal cultures that I've been looking into versus individualistic cultures. So traditional classroom settings are, individualized, like work on this worksheet on your own, do this homework, bring this back to me, take this test, take this quiz on your own. So a lot of students that come from those type of backgrounds where they're used to individualizing their work and they're used to doing competitions and who can do it faster, who can do it the best, those kind of things, they thrive in those environments versus individuals that come from a communal background in which they're used to maybe collaborating from a team perspective. Maybe they're looking at doing group work. So if we're not presenting a lot of that information in the classroom where students are able to work together, work in groups, be able to figure out things together as opposed to having to figure out this assignment on their own, we're missing a group of kids. And those group of kids are the ones that are, walking around the classroom and asking other class students, what did you get on number 5? How did you get number 7? And we get mad as teachers or as school leaders. We get upset because they're not following the rules. We told you to sit down and be quiet. We told you to do your work on your own. This is independent time. But we're missing a group of folks that, yeah, I hear what you're saying, but that's not necessarily what I can connect with. And we miss that opportunity to develop those relationships and help them thrive. And then often those are the kids that are getting sent to the office. Those are the students that are missing classroom time because we're so focused on the individualistic approach. But again, that is decolonizing our classrooms, going against what we typically have done historically over years since the Industrial Revolution, but looking at it differently. The likelihood of students working or individuals graduating from high school and going into a profession in which they're working isolated by themselves is very low. More than likely, they're going to have to work in groups and have to work in teams. And if they never really get that experience as students, then they have to learn a lot of that stuff on the fly as professionals.
Powerful stuff, and then in the book, and let me put it up here again, Leading Equity. Becoming an Advocate for All Students. You can get your copy at Amazon. You within the chapter, You talk about how can I begin to decolonize my classroom, and you gave these 10 steps to begin the process of decolonizing your classroom. I want to actually read all 10. Check this out, y'all. And then to the fam out there, we got one more question, and then we do our rapid fire BAM impact questions. You said analyze text and experiences from multiple perspectives and lenses. Require students to think about how knowledge is constructed. Shift marginalized voices to the center of your curriculum. Invite students to think critically and acknowledge biases. Powerful stuff. Promote research and learning via exploration and discussion. Allow students to create relevant, authentic learning products. Adopt cultural storytelling and include narratives from diverse authors. Use inclusive vocabulary and challenge non-inclusive or offensive terms. Empower students to make decisions about social and political issues. Challenge students to use their learning to take action and solve problems. Implement transdisciplinary approaches such as project-based learning. Invite students to share how they experience their world and their communities. Honor culturally rich modes of expression and ways of working. And finally, know and love your students for who they are, not who they might be. That's a whole session, right? There's a lot there, but I got a question out of that emanates out of that. And the question is, thinking about decolonization of the classroom and student sense of belonging. Talk to us about the correlation between this decolonization and a student's sense of belonging in a classroom. Is there a correlation?
Absolutely. I mean, one of the examples that you read in that list there that stands out from your question is the cultural storytelling piece. Again, I'm going to always advocate for relationships, but in order for those relationships to kick in, you have to ask questions and you have to be willing to learn about students. You know, I see a lot of teachers, they'll do family tree related type of activities, right? Best intentions, but there's a lot of challenges that can take place when it comes to those family tree activities. And I've even seen a teacher do celebrate or show us how you got to the United States, share us the family tree from that direction. But again, who's impacted negatively by that? Like I remember my daughter had that assignment in the 3rd grade, celebrate how you came to America. And we're like, well, that's not necessarily a celebration for us as far as how we got to the United States. That's one direction. And there's undocumented students that are in the classroom. And so maybe they're not able to express that either. And you got Native Americans in your class as well. They were already, they were here. So they have to sit there and watch all their classmates share about how their land was taken. Like there's a lot of things that go into these conversations. So a cultural storytelling aspect is an opportunity to celebrate. Here's a little bit about our customs, our practices, our languages, food that we eat, things that we consider traditional, not what you consider traditional, but what we consider traditional. They're not costumes that we're wearing, but this is our traditional attire that we wear. That can be told in a story where students get an opportunity to talk to maybe their grandparents, or maybe their aunts and uncles and things like that. And even if they're in a situation where they're having experience within foster care or things like that, so maybe there might be some challenges with learning a little bit more of their origin story. However, there's opportunities for them to ask questions from individuals that they might know, or just based off of their culture, those standpoints, that they can have those conversations and be able to share. That to me is a better approach than your quote unquote traditional family tree type of activity. So again, going against what we normally would do, like what I would do as a kid growing up. These are things that we used to, those type of activities, but we're still getting to know our students and what they're interested in and what language they speak at home and what does mommy or daddy call them when they're at home versus what we call them at school. Those are some things that we're learning. That is just one. Again, there's a whole list that we just read, but that when it comes to creating a sense of belonging, I know, oh, Johnny, just shared with us all these things that they've learned from their culture. Now what can I do to bring that to Johnny's face when it comes to teaching strategies, things that he can relate to? How is he going to, like, I won't know these things unless they take the time or I learn from them through that culture storytelling piece. That's just one example.
Yeah, well, that's a great example. That's good stuff. That brings us to the end. And this was a lot of great information shared. But before we conclude, let's go to these rapid fire BAM impact questions. One sentence or one word. If you feel yourself getting ready to insert a comma, catch yourself. It's too long. Right? Here we go. Is education on the right path for underserved children in America?
Not yet.
Are you optimistic about the educational prospects for the masses of Black and brown and other underserved students in America?
Yes.
Can true equity occur in America's schools for Black, brown, and other underserved students?
Yes.
Does Dr. Sheldon Akin's work contribute to the progress we desperately need?
Yes.
If you could do a reset on your life, would your line of work be different or the same?
Different.
Why do you continue to do this work?
If I don't do it, who will?
What fires you up within the work that you do?
Making connections with others.
What do you absolutely love about this work?
I get to learn as well.
What do you dislike about this work?
There's not enough voices in this space.
What has been your greatest victory in your work?
Accomplishing writing my first book.
What was your greatest mistake in this work?
Not listening.
What has been your greatest challenge in this work?
Being patient.
And who inspires you in your work?
Other like-minded folks out there in this space.
What are you reading right now? Book, blog, tweet, article, anything?
This nursing caregiver collaborations. Naval Karani. He was on my show.
Okay. What book do you recommend for our viewers today?
Leading Equity, Becoming an Advocate for All Students.
That's right. That's right. What do you want to accomplish that you haven't accomplished just yet?
That's a good question. I would like to have my book be a textbook at some point.
I love it. Are you satisfied with where you are professionally?
No.
Would you? What would you say to a viewer out there who continues to face closed doors?
Do not give up. Keep the work going.
What could you say to a viewer out there who's lost their fire?
The work is not going to be easy. Keep going.
Yeah. And lastly, if Dr. Sheldon Akins was a word in a dictionary, what would be your definition?
Resilient.
Resilient. That's powerful stuff. Before I close, I got to go back to one. Those who have been rocking with me from day one or been rocking with me for a long time, then one of your answers stood out. Because, and then let me just find which one it was. Oh my God, which one was it? You are the only. I've had at least 200 people on here, and you are the only person that answered this question the way you did. So I got to go back to it. It says, if you could do a reset on your life, would your line of work be different or the same? You are the first person ever on this platform to say different. So I gotta ask you, what do you mean?
If I was to do things differently?
No, just because the question is saying if you could do a reset on your life, would your line of work be different or the same? And you said it would be different.
My thought with that answer would be, I again, we kind of talked about this early on, what I know then versus what I know now. So this is my second round being a school administrator. I just know so many things now that I didn't know when I first started running a school.
Yeah.
So I would do it differently. Not necessarily that I don't want to be an educator,
Yeah.
but that I would lead differently, or I am leading differently than I was leading before.
Makes sense. I got you. I was curious. You know, folks, the fam, they already know what we do. We give emojis to our guests to let us know that we appreciate everything that you share, whether they appreciate, whether you was whether it resonated, whether you enjoyed it, whether it was useful, whether you could incorporate it, infuse it into your practice. Give us those emojis to let our guests know, Dr. Sheldon L. Akins, that you appreciated the conversation today. And let me get my emoji. I use my Louisville Slugger, and certainly you hit it out the park, grand slam. Every time you came to bat, even Satchel Paige was pitching, and you still hit it out the park, right?
Thank you.
And I got my alternate Kansas City Monarch Satchel Paige on, so I was Satchel, and despite the fact I was Satchel today, you were still hitting it out the park, Josh Gibson style. So I appreciate you, man. This was
Thanks for having me.
Oh yeah, tell the folks, how do they reach you, just to connect with you, to book you, to get your books, everything you want them to know. Let them know now.
Always start with leadingequitycenter.com. If you're a podcast listener, Leading Equity is a show. Also, I'm on YouTube, so I always appreciate the subscribers. At The Art of Advocacy, where I live stream and I promote videos as well. But leadingequitycenter.com is the first place to find me. Socials is at Sheldon Akins.
There's that.
Grab your book. If you don't have the book, grab your copy of Leading Equity, Becoming an Advocate. Like I said, my second book that's it should be, hopefully be out by the end of this year, is entitled Don't Bring Boxed Macaroni to the Cookout, to the potluck.
Same publisher?
No, that's Solution Tree.
Okay. I hear that. Yeah. Good stuff. Yeah. So I appreciate you, man. This was dynamite. I know that a lot of folks, probably everybody on here, definitely appreciated you. Numbers stayed good. And look forward to having you back on here at some point as well. Stay
Anytime.
with me. Yeah, stay with me until we go off mic. Hey, to the fam out there, glad to have you for yet another Saturday, week number 218. So I certainly invite you to week number 219 next week. We're gonna call this the Canadian takeover. I got four. I was speaking in Alberta, Canada earlier this year, and there were these three women on a panel, two women on a panel, I should say. And I was blown away by some of the it was a women's panel dealing with issues of women in the workforce, women in leadership. And I asked two of them, I said, I need you on my Saturday Academy. And then I know a superintendent from Ontario that I wanted her to be a part of the same sort of conversation. And then our old friend, family member, Jacqueline Harriet from Nova Scotia, I reached out to her and asked her to make a repeat visit. So we're going to have the four women from Canada. We're going to get down next Saturday on a topic. I don't know what it'll be yet, but I think it'll be something about women in the workplace. So join us for week number 219 next Saturday, first Saturday in July. Every Saturday morning, Facebook Live, Sean Hurt, 10 o'clock, followed by Create and Educate, Dr. Sheikah Houston and Dr. Tammy Taylor at 10:30. Myself at 10:55 for 4 more weeks on Facebook and Twitter. Then we'll be exclusively YouTube beginning the first Saturday in August. So please don't forget that. And please don't find it robbery to make the switch, right? I'll still share onto Facebook and Twitter as I did today. So you don't have to go to YouTube. You can just go to where you've always gone and just click the link and it'll become live. Join me in Houston, July 9 and 10, School Leadership Institute with Principal Kafele. This is our annual, I think it's our 7th annual, if I'm not mistaken. So join me out there. And then join me at the Black Educators Rock Conference as well, July 18th through 21. I'll have that. I'll get that roster for you so we can let you know who's going to be there. But that's July 18th through 21. I will be there the 20th and the 21st, doing a leadership session on the 21st. You know my books. I'm not going to put them on the screen again. It's late, but go to Amazon and get my leadership books. Matter of fact, your teachers, get your teachers my teacher books, and get the leaders my leadership books, right? Subscribe to the AP and New Principles Academy YouTube channel. Like and follow the AP and New Principles Academy Facebook page. Visit principalkafele.com for all my resources. And then finally, your diet, your exercise, and your COVID precautions, your virus precautions. I got to change that language because it's more than COVID out here now. Everything is out here. So just make sure, folks, that you're taking care of yourselves, because you can't be an asset to anybody if you're not healthy. So make sure you're eating right. You're getting that exercise in. Yesterday, I had a long week, y'all, all that flying, all that jet lag. But yesterday I went out here and did my 3 miles, man. I did it. And today I'm taking off, but tomorrow I'll be back out there, and that's how we do it, either the gym or outside. I prefer outside during the summer season, but whatever it is, I'm gonna get that cardio work in, and you got to get it in there. If you don't have any reference, then just use me as your reference of having that heart attack on May 1st, 2015. That is the only reason that I do this exercise, because prior to that, my exercise was running through airports or walking up and down some stairs somewhere, but now that I had that experience, that crisis, now I make sure that I do what's necessary. So use me as your example of what you need to do if you're not getting it done. Other than that, folks, great to see you. Have a great week. Have an extraordinary week. Have your best week yet. Peace. Peace. Thumbs up. Cock that fist back. 1, 2, 3. Bam! I'll see y'all next Saturday at 10:55.